up, let's bring up Bruce Fenton and talk about the cyberpunks of Wall Street.
Hey, thanks. Hey, everybody. Thanks. I can't believe we got a token security conference. How cool is that? I've been thinking about this for years. I feel like I was sort of born to be here because in 1977, when I was 5 years old, I'm 46 now, save you the math. When I was 5 years old, my mom became a stockbroker. She was one of 12 women brokers in her training class at Merrill Lynch. And I kind of grew up on Wall Street. By the time I was 7, I was sitting in her office after school, and I'd read through the pink sheets back when they really were pink sheets on a piece of paper. And I'd play with the super advanced computer, the Quotron, which had this miraculous ability where you could just put in a symbol like IBM, hit send, you wait, and then the quote comes back and it tells you what the stock is worth. It's incredible because you had to do it by newspaper before then. So then at 14, I got a job at Dean Witter, where my mom worked at it by then, and I kept working there. And at 19, I got my Series 7. At 21, I became a vice president there. By then, it was Morgan Stanley. And I thought that there was this, that was 1994 by then, and this information superhighway thing was coming along. And I said, well, you know, maybe we could do something with financial advisory on the internet. So I left and started my own firm called Atlantic Financial, which became the first full-service investment firm to use the internet back in '94. And that was good timing because the market did well and the internet did well. So we grew pretty rapidly and ended up becoming a multi-billion-dollar firm in transaction volume, handling clients like some of the top private equity firms in the world and the largest global nonprofit foundation. And then I saw this internet kind of thing again in this world of blockchain, coming to conferences like Mo's and things like that in the 2012 range. In 2013, I said, this is it. And I sort of decimated this business I had worked on for 20 years, this successful financial advisory practice. I sort of decimated it and didn't renew contracts with clients just to totally focus on this industry and focus on investing in it. And right away, I was really interested in this combination of my old career as a stockbroker, 20-year, 25-year financial advisor, and this new technology, which I think is very transformative. I was interested in the free market aspect, the economic aspect, the tech aspect, and the similarities to the internet. And right away, I said, well, how can we do, once I realized, and I was a slow learner, it took me a little while, maybe 6 months or so, being in Bitcoin to realize what was important about it. And that's that it's an invention. A blockchain is a new invention that can do new stuff. First and foremost, that's what's important about it. It's a new invention that can do new stuff. It can eliminate the need for trusted third parties. That's a big deal. And at the center of that is a ledger. A ledger is a statement that says who owns what. And it's really good for transferring value from one person to another of something that has value. That's why Bitcoin has been such a successful first application of this use of the blockchain technology. So I said, well, coming from my world, growing up in equities and securities, I said, well, that's got to be a natural fit. So 5 years ago, I started down this road of saying, what's going to happen with tokenization of securities, and how will this look? So I started an investment process, and we invested in anything that looked like it would work, starting with Bitcoin, and working with projects like Mastercoin and Counterparty. And then I was a seed investor in Ethereum because Ethereum had tokens, and I was, kept doing that kind of thing, investing in, companies like Shapeshift and Abra and projects like ADA and EOS and Polymath and Ethereum. And then meanwhile, building our own, sort of stealth mode startup that has been working on this for a long time. And then I, more recently joined the board of Medici Ventures, which, as you probably know, owns T0, which is a fully licensed exchange and partner with a national market system exchange and owner of an ATS and some broker dealers. So for me, it's particularly exciting to be here. I don't like going on about myself, but it's kind of relevant, I think, because of this topic. And I have this very lucky set of happenstance because of my mom's job and my first job, and because I happen to be fortunate enough to get into this space early enough that these two interests that I have have converged. And I share the opinions of people like my colleague Patrick Byrne, who's on the board of T0 and Overstock and Medici, where I serve as well, in that this is a $40 trillion plus market. This is an ultimate game changer. This is something that can completely transform the world and the way that the world works as we know it. It's just as significant as the internet, or maybe the printing press, or maybe the creation of checks, or the creation of debt, or Bitcoin. It's a big deal. And it's somewhat encouraging that you have conferences like this that exist now, and you have Coinbase's announcement to say that this is here. For years, I've been arguing with people about whether this was real or not. Could it work? It's here now. We get to try this experiment, and I'm really, really excited about being part of it. So that's my background. So I'm going to talk about cypherpunks on Wall Street. And first of all, I'll back up a little bit and say, what is a security token? It's two words, security and token. So a security is basically an agreement, really. If you're an anarchist like me and you don't believe in governments, or you would prefer to say, we don't want any government authority, that's fine, you can use a dictionary. As somebody who's been registered and governed by the SEC for longer than I haven't been, 57% of my life I've been governed by the SEC in some form or another, I have to follow these regulations. I've been able to do $5.5 billion in transactions without ever having a single error, or I've had errors, but I haven't had any single claim or complaint or regulatory action. So those rules are very serious. You can be an anarchist in your heart, but being an activist who goes to prison to make a point is a different matter entirely. And violation of securities laws is just like going down the street violating drug laws. You can do it, but you have to be prepared that you're going to be punished for it. They're very serious laws. They're very seriously enforced. As I said, I've been governed by them my whole life. So for me, hopefully it's a little bit of second nature to comply. But you don't really have a choice. You can either be an activist or you can comply. That's it. They're federally enforced. They're very serious. So a security under U.S. Legal definition, it's written in the 33 Act, or the Securities Act, also known as the Securities Act, written in 1933. And it covers a whole paragraph, bond, debenture, security, indebtedness, contract, blah, 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 blah. It's a whole big fat paragraph. And if you look at the American Bar Association description of it, right below that, it'll say this Supreme Court decisions have said that this should be interpreted very, very, very broadly. So securities under United States law, which is kind of copied by a lot of other countries or similar to other countries, basically says that a security is an agreement. And if you look at the dictionary definition, it's basically an agreement. And all a token is something that is represented on a blockchain. It's a piece of information that typically is publicly available. It's represented on a blockchain. So that's all there is. As long as agreements exist, are agreements going to exist? Are they part of society? Are they part of the free world? Yes. Agreements in some form will exist. In some jurisdictions or dictionaries, those will be called investment contracts, and those are going to be considered securities. So securities exist. That's a thing. And it's surprising. There are some people who seem to be arguing this as if, well, it's not decentralized, so it's not a real blockchain. Okay, whatever. Agreements exist in the world. And blockchains exist. And you can take an agreement and a blockchain can't recognize the outside world, but agreements, which is what a security is anyway, can recognize whatever they want. We can make an agreement that says if the sun casts a shadow on a certain street outside, I'll give you $100,000. You can take that agreement and then sell pieces of it to other people. That's a security. That's a security actually under U.S. law. And that's a security under the definition of a dictionary agreement. You could, just the same as you reference the sun or something else that you don't control, you can reference a blockchain, which is a big, big point of misunderstanding. Unfortunately, among many of the people who've been in this industry a long time, who really, really appreciate and understand Bitcoin. Because to them, they say, well, anything outside of a native asset doesn't make sense. You can't have Bitcoin recognize the outside world. And that's true. But the outside world, these agreements that govern everything in the world, can reference a blockchain. So you can create a security right now. I can create a security on my phone. I've done it on Twitter. I did it with a pen and a piece of paper. A security I can take an address right now and I can say, the holder of this address is entitled to 10% of my company, which is valuable. That's a security. And the reason I know it's a security, because you better believe if I put that up here at this conference and started selling it, I'm going to be subject to securities laws. So that is a security. And that's the only debate about it. There isn't any question about whether this is a thing or whether it's going to work. All you need to believe is that agreements exist in the world and blockchains exist in the world. And those agreements can reference a blockchain. That's it. And once you do that, and this is why it's hard to understand, people say, well, you have to trust an issuer. What's the point? Why don't you just have the issuer manage the database? You don't need a blockchain for that. Well, yeah, you do, because those people don't understand how stocks trade. If you're going to say you can't replace a ledger, you got to tell me what ledger that is, because you probably don't know. Who do you think handles your ledger for your Apple stock? Anybody in this room owns stock, any stock ever in your life? Who manages the ledger for it? You trust the issuer, right? Well, if you trust the issuer, why doesn't the issuer manage it? Have Apple manage it. No. Apple doesn't know who owns their shares. The issuer doesn't manage the ledger. The issuer can't manage the ledger because it's a global market. This isn't a science experiment. These are markets that have been in existence for 100 years. Trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. It's a real thing. It's right down the street. It works. It moves. There's a lot of money to be done. There's a lot of considerations. You think scaling Bitcoin past 7 transactions a second is hard. Try managing $100 trillion of trading volume between 350 brokers who don't trust each other, none of which will share the ledger with the other person, and they won't even share it with the issuer. If you have an account at Merrill Lynch has a ledger that says you own Apple shares. Do you think Goldman Sachs has that ledger? No, Merrill doesn't share their ledger with Goldman Sachs. Do you think they share it with Apple? No, you might be an activist. You might be a hedge fund. You might be a former disgruntled employee. The issuer themselves, Apple might not even want you to know who the other shareholders is. You may not want them to know. So these ledgers are managed by all these different groups. And it's very, very, very difficult because they've got to move back and forth. In the 70s, they used to ride around on bicycles, netting out the end of the day shares to people. They'd say who owned what. That situation became so untenable that in 1996, the Wall Street got together and said, we can't even hope to know who owns what. Forget about it. We're not even going to try to say that you own your real shares. We'll just make a fake company up called CD & Co. We'll put everybody's money in that. We'll call it street name. And then we'll have this other company, a trust company called DTCC, sort of kind of figure out what you might own later on and report to the brokers. And it takes days. And that's the system that exists now. That's the reality. Issuers don't control the issuance. So you needed a trusted third party in the form of this DTCC, CD & Co. That's what we're replacing. That's what we're going to replace with securities tokens. And the same problem that Wall Street has, which is a pretty good test market because it's the biggest market in the world, is a problem that a lot of people don't even know that they have. Joe's hot dog stand can issue a token and have that kind of liquidity that he could have never had, even with the publicly traded companies, publicly traded markets that exist today. So it's very, very, very exciting. So it's going to open up doors for liquidity, capital controls. Oh yeah, I got only a couple minutes left, but I want to talk about cypherpunk. So cypherpunk, it's important to know the roots of this stuff. If you don't know this and you don't appreciate it, and you're one of these people who says, well, it's okay other than all those libertarians, well, then you're in the wrong space. Because this is the origins of where this came from. And if you're out there saying, rah, rah, blockchain, but we need regulatory clarity to bring legitimacy to the space, you're in the wrong space, man. Because this is the core of what this stuff was built on. The people who actually built the code that you're operating and building all these businesses on and making pitches on and raising money on, the actual code that actually works is based on these fundamentals. And make no mistake about it, the creation of blockchain came from Bitcoin, and that is a political movement. It's a political movement that people worked on to bring more freedom and more privacy to people. And it was origin in this movement, the Cypherpunk Manifesto. My favorite line in here is where it says, cypherpunks write code. That's it. You write code, it's an idea, you express it in the form of code, and you publish it for the world. And that difference changes the alignment and aligns interests in a way like nothing else ever has. It enables you to have the same field. There's no advantage that anyone has. There was no pre-mine with Bitcoin. It's a fair platform where an idea is released to the world, and that's very, very different than the world that I came from in Wall Street. It's all about people and important parties and powers and finagling and deal making. This is an idea that's expressed in code, and that's it. You can build on it, you can use it, it's yours as much as it is mine or Satoshi's or a core developer or anybody else who works on it. And that goes for the whole technology too, not just Bitcoin, but any fairly launched, properly done coin. Here's some famous cypherpunks. A lot of cool stuff that open source is great, the whole concept is good. Here's a cool tool I invented called Spacesuit X. If you're looking at ICOs or something, you can take a look at it. It's basically an acronym. Here's a project that, I don't know what that is. So, Ravencoin is a project that I support. It's a pretty cypherpunk coin, I think, and it's specifically designed for this use case of securities tokens. It was fairly launched, code issued, no pre-mine, no founders set aside, no ICO, no fundraising of any sort. I think that's cool. I think it's a cool model. Like everything, it's risky. This space is Game of Thrones, and you can get hacked or attacked or anything else. It's dangerous, but it's a lot of fun also. So this is cool. Really glad to be here. Let's go out and bring the kind of freedom to the world that we're bringing with Bitcoin to the world of securities and completely open up liquidity and really do some good. Thanks.
Bruce Fenton, ladies and gentlemen.